Let's actually go ahead and run it, but before I do that, I actually want to make my program so that it handles exceptions well, and for that I will say try catch. So within the try, I'll put the whole thing basically, and copy that, or cut that rather, and in here I will say catch the exception. So the exception, and obviously in real world we want to log this into our database, but in this case we don't have a database, so I'll basically just print it out and say ex message. So I'm just gonna print out the message, and let's see how this works now. So I will put it at the very end, a breakpoint, run it, and we have an error. Let's see what it is. So in this case we are saying return this. That's the problem, and it's okay, because what this is basically saying is it's returning back a builder, but it's supposed to return back the part, which is okay. That's part of the software development. You make some mistakes, and then you run it, you compile it, you basically debug it to make sure that all the mistakes are solved and fixed. So then run it again. So it says, please enter which city would you like to, please enter which city you would like to scrape information from. In this case, you say Boston, just for my example. Please enter the Craigslist category that you would like to scrape, CTA. And you saw that we got back all of the descriptions and then the links. You see, we got all the descriptions and the links back, and we have scraped using regular expressions, and we have constructed our search criteria based on the builder pattern. So you see here, if we actually go ahead and try to debug it real quick, I just want to show you one thing. So you say Boston, CTA, or any other thing for your example you can use. So here you can see it downloaded it, right? And then you have your scrape criteria. If you look at it, you have your data, which is the downloaded data from the net. It's the whole web page, and you have two parts. One part is taking care of this. It's looking at the description part, and the other side, the other part rather, is looking at the href, so it's looking for the link. And then your scraper basically goes around and says, okay, well, it's time to scrape. Goes here and says, are there any matches? And says, yep, these are how many matches we found. So it goes through each and every match and says, okay, well, for this match, do we want to get granular? And it says, yep, we do. And these are the parts. We want to look at the link and the description, right? Remember that? So here we basically go ahead and we say, okay, for each part, look from within that matched element. And if there's a match, which in this case there was, it's going to come here and going to say, okay, well, where were the matches, right? The groups. If you click here, it says 1. There you go. Toyota Highlander, very low. So the first one is basically the entire thing, right? The second one is just a group, so it's what has been matched from within. That's why we're grabbing the 1 as opposed to grabbing the 0, because this is just basically cleaner. It's just what we actually need. The other one is grabbing the other symbols that we have specified as well. That's all. That's why it's groups 1. And it's grabbing that and any other parts that we have specified in our builder pattern criteria, or in our criteria using the builder pattern that we've constructed, and it's just basically looping through it and doing it for each and every element. And at the end, if I go all the way at the end, it's going to have a list of the descriptions and the links and the descriptions, right? And that's basically what we get back, and that's basically what we print out. So for each, it's going to go through the whole thing, and it's going to end it there. And then you're going to see this. And when I mentioned that the exceptions are going to be handled seamlessly through the try and catch, this is what I meant. So if you put something in here and you don't even put anything in here, it's going to fail to download. But it's not going to fail completely. It's going to say the remote name could not be resolved, right? That basically is going to be an exception that's going to be handled. And we could have had another logic that said, you know what, don't just like exit the program, just go ahead and ask for another input, but those weren't the requirements, which is why we are just handling the exception and closing the program. But all the exceptions have been handled.